Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's August 13th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and really big early rally. I mean, this is a straight up here. I mean, really from the open, we rallied up. This is around 28.78 or 79, somewhere in that range, and we rallied all the way to 29.40 something really in the first hour of trading. I mean, that's a huge move for an hour of trading. So, anyway, we had a really nice move. It's very rare that you're going to see a move this strong that suddenly reverses and trades off the other way. This is probably what you'd expect, either a flatter channel that continues higher or maybe some kind of range that moves sideways. It's just hard to turn the market back down after a day that rallies this strongly. I mean, that's about a 70-point move in an hour, which is that's a pretty good move. So it's great trading opportunities. There's not a lot of entries in here early before this big move up. However, if you caught one of these, just about every one of them had a runner. I mean, all you had to do is catch one of these early trades, and you can ride this thing. Even somebody that likes to jump out and in, like myself, can hang on a trend like that up. It's not that hard to do. Just stay with it. I mean, even if you just put your stop below the bar each time, you could get 10 or 15 or 20 points out of this almost. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't take much to have a really big day when you can catch runners like these. And so when you get these opportunities, by all means, take them. You can see most of this afternoon, it was mostly selling. We had a couple of trends down. It really looked like we were going to reverse here, but we found some support. Seems like the support came back in right here around 29.18 or so, and we couldn't get through that, and we bounced, and we just kind of stayed range bound after that. The problem with a range like this is you don't have a consistent prices don't turn down at a consistent spot, and they don't really turn up at a consistent spot. We turn down here, then we turn down here, then we turn down here, and we turned up here, and that really took us in the 2 o'clock hour. But first we turned up here, and then we were turning up right here, and then we sold off a little more and turned up here. You're not consistently bouncing off the same support and turning down off the same resistance, and so that makes it a little harder to trade a range like that. You can get whipsawed easy. So notice how choppy and range like all this is. I just didn't see anything in there that I thought was worth taking. So um, anyway, I'm going to back out where we can see a little better. We'll go through the trades. There's still a lot of trades today, but most of the good trades came a little later in the morning. So, but I'm going to back out here where it's easier to see. And we had this two-tier, actually, just to back out a minute, we had this two-tier channel that worked up. We had a break, a new high, and that's when we went sideways after that. We didn't really have a sell-off. We just, even though prices backed off some, we just really went into somewhat of a range. So anyway, 7 o'clock came right in this area, right in here. We really were just going sideways, up and down, back and forth above and below the EMA. It was really flat in here. And there's a failed second entry long here. There's a little trend working down. You get a break, and you also notice the new high. You go first entry, second entry, and this is somewhat of a little bit of a trading range too, and a little failed breakout. And this actually went higher and turned and went out the other side. You could just wait, and really the right way to play this was to go short one tick below this bar when it turned down. If you didn't, I don't know if I would have went short below this bar. It's very neutral. Almost. I don't know if I'd have went short directly below that, but if you wanted to play it with the fact that it broke higher and then there was a failure when it went lower there, it still would have worked out. So it gave you a lower high here again, but it's a very neutral bar similar to this one. Not a great setup, but you might enter right there. So I like generally if it starts out higher and turns and goes out the other side like that, on a setup like this, it's probably going to be a trap. It obviously didn't trap a whole lot of people or fool a whole lot of people because there wasn't much action to the downside, even though it worked on lower. Generally, it'll move real quickly if there's a trap, and it didn't happen there. So obviously, a lot of people just saw that congestion there and probably were just staying clear of it. And this is early in the morning too, right at 7 o'clock. So there's not as many traders yet. There's not probably a lot of people that are going to get fooled there, and that's probably why it didn't take off like it usually does on a trap. But then we got back above the EMA, and of course you got a trend line working up through there, and we come back to it here on 2 legs. Notice that high first entry, and then there's second entry. So there's second entry long there that bounces right off and confirms that trend line. It is into a little bit of resistance here, but there's plenty of room to get out on a scalp there. I mean, it doesn't look like there's very much room there, but we're so far out in these bars. I mean, that's actually that bar itself is. Well, I didn't mean to do that. That bar itself right there is actually well, I can't see the range because it's down. Anyway, there's plenty of room to get out there. That's my point. So for some reason that thing's dropping. Let's see if that allows it. Now you can see the range. Just 7 ticks. That bar right there alone is 7 ticks. It looks tiny because there's so much volatility and there's so many much bigger bars, but so that shows you how much room there's probably 3 times more room back to scalp out there. So you got plenty of room. And if you catch this one trade, you catch a runner and you ride this thing, I mean, as far as you want to ride it. But anyway, you get up here and you get another 2-legged correction back to the EMA, and you really have a double top here. So this is like a new leg, a new move down, but that's 2 legs back. And I don't like these first 2 signal bars, but notice this is a double top and it comes down. It goes first entry and then it backs up, and then you get a lower high right here. So when it breaks above that, that's a second entry long. And on a bigger picture, it's a second entry long because there's 2 legs back. And so if we take off here, it may take on off. And so I like that trade. It actually comes back here and bounces off the EMA and gives you another bullish bar. The only problem with this one, it is right into that resistance. Although we kind of broke high, it's a little bit of a breakout pullback. And that's a really bearish, bullish bar. So you may risk that one. But it didn't matter. Even if you entered here, you could probably still be in this trade. And look at it go. I mean, if you just moved your stop up below the next bar as it closed each time, you could ride this all the way up here and get out almost at the very high. There's actually a second entry long right here, and it is still right off that trend line in the midline. I didn't mark it. It's not a great signal bar. A little bit of congestion there, but there is some confluence there with several different. You got the shorter term trend line working up through here. You got the midline working up through here. You could argue for that to be green. I'd probably wait. We've been away from the EMA a good bit for a long time. And you don't know if this is not an overshoot at this point or if maybe this is a 2-tier channel. At this point, all you know is this is your channel here, and this is a trend channel line, and this is an overshoot. So, but when it makes an equal distance move up, then you pretty much know, no, this is a 2-tier channel. So then we work our way back. You get another second entry right here, but we just came off the very high. There is a close outside, not real convincing there. And this is a second entry long. It's a 2-bar matching high. I don't know if I would take that. It would have worked, but I think you're better off to make sure you get a sure reversal there. And even here you get a higher low, but it doesn't look very convincing that it's going to reverse, but then you get the reversal here. So I like entering there, and it actually ticks back one more time and bounces off the EMA and gives you a double test of that EMA, and it actually goes lower first. So you could actually, if you didn't get in for some reason here on the reversal type pattern, you might get in here. Either way, they both work. It actually pulls back again here on that same trend line, but I'm not as crazy about entering there now. runs on up, and this is almost a repeat pattern of this, but again, you don't get a very good signal bar there. And then you come back, you actually get a second entry long right there that you might have considered entering that. Notice that swing high is higher than that one, so you got a new high, and then you pull back. And this first entry, when it broke higher, comes on down. So when it breaks higher right there, and that's off the main key entry point, it's not a perfect signal bar. It's almost a doji, but it's more, it closes in its upper half. So you might consider that one again. I'd probably wait, and you can see the smart traders waited to see if you got a better entry. And guess what? There's just enough room to scalp out of that, and then it sells off again. So it just didn't, neither one of them turned out to be great entries. But with this much volatility and all, just about a second entry and a higher high off a key entry point, you're just about going to get a scalp out of them. And you can see you did on both of those, but you didn't get much more than that. If you tried to get anything extra, you would have got stopped out. And then, of course, you do get a break here, a new low, and you actually get a second leg down to a new low, and there's a second entry long right there with a nice bullish bar. And this actually went lower and turned and went out the other side again. But notice that swing high is higher than that swing, so there's actually a little swing in there. So this is a new swing high, so a first entry and then a second entry, and you've actually had your break. And this was a big, strong, long-term trend, so you're probably not going to correct much before you try to make a new high. So you're looking for prices to go higher, and that one's probably worth trying to take right there. And it does take off. It actually comes back right here to this little short-term trend line. But you got a two bar. This is not your signal bar. This one, the more bearish bar is, and this is just an inside bar. So I didn't like it too much, and it never really gives you a higher low. There's actually a higher low right here, but it didn't break lower, and it's a doji, and you're just kind of getting stacked up there. But the main thing is you've already got a break and a new leg up. You may get another leg up, which you do, but you don't know that. So then, of course, you make that new high. Now you got your break here. Convincing close outside this main trend line, running up and down through here, and you got two legs up to a new high. And then even though this didn't push through the EMA, this is a failed second entry long and a reversal type pattern, and it actually when it broke lower right there, I like going short. Actually, you would have gone short below that inside bar if you're going to use this as a failed second entry, because that's when it became a failure. And you got enough room to get out. Again, it doesn't look very far, but that's further than you think because of the way the chart is right now. You got plenty of room to get out before that EMA. And this thing takes on off. I don't know if you'd call a runner there or not. If you entered one tick below that, you would not have caught a runner. The only way you would have caught a runner is if you tried to use a lemon order, and I don't know if you'd got filled on it. But it just kind of ends up going choppy there, and I don't see any reason to try to enter any of this. It does come back with a second entry short right here, but too bullish of a bar. And then finally you get two more legs back. Even though this makes a lower high, that's still two swings back to the EMA, and that is a big bearish bar right off the key entry point. This is really your signal bar right here. But since this is also right off the EMA and the trend line and so bearish on two legs back, I'd say you got to take that trade. Turns out to be a pretty good trade. Then you come back, and actually there's a second entry short right there. I didn't like that one, just simply because you don't have a new high here. Let me draw this trend line. You can see that, and so this is really the first close outside by the time you get this second entry short. So that makes it suspect, plus the fact that we rallied real quickly and got right through the EMA, and you're trying to go short right through it. That one is very tempting when you've been trending down, but this has been, the bigger pattern is still, like I said earlier, on a day that rallies that strong, any kind of correction is going to be very limited in most cases. Doesn't mean you couldn't have a big reversal and sell off, because it could happen, but it's very rare. And so I'd be very leery of traps right here. So I did mark this one because by this time, notice how you got that congestion there. And this is a little, there's actually, let me put my line on there. You can actually see that resistance across there. And this is like a little failed break higher and a trap. So I like that one to some degree. It is the first break of this trend line as well. So if you entered here, you just got fooled. You were just a little bit too early. And that's why a lot of times, you know, you're better off to wait to get that convincing close outside and make sure you get a new high. Sometimes you'll miss a good trade doing that. But as strong as this trend was to the upside, I'd be more worried about missing a move to the upside than the downside here. And if you're just a little bit patient, you got a nice move here. And you could have had a runner on that one as well. And then notice you're moving down. You get a first entry, and then you get a second entry and a big bearish bar. We still aren't back down to this low, which this is looking a lot like a range at this point. So I would expect prices to be shooting for these previous lows in this breakout area right here. And so there's enough room, and there's enough room to get out before here as well. So, and that's exactly where we got to. And notice we tested that a few times and then couldn't get through and headed higher. But notice how we made the low. We tested it once, we tested it twice. So technically you got a double test right there. The only reason I don't like that trade is the bar is not real bullish. This one's not a whole lot better, but now you've got a double test and a higher low. And so I think that's probably, if you're going to enter, that's the place to enter. And you can see that's when it takes off. And we actually have a failed second entry short here, but you're going long, way away from the trend line, the EMA. Really, you're going long right into the upper trend channel. I don't have it drawn here. Oops. Well, the chart's messing up some there. For some reason, it's not copying. There we go. But you can see that's the upper side of the trend channel, and you just don't want to be going long right into that. So let it come back to the trend line. It does right here, but that's your signal bar. That's an inside bar. And then finally you get a nice signal bar here. And you still got room to get out at the high, even if we're not going high. I mean, even if you can't get through the highs there, you got enough room to scalp out. And this was a nice scalp. And I didn't like entering these other two because now you had a close and a new high. Even though you maybe headed back up to test these previous highs, you can see that the resistance that we've had right along this area in here, and you got to be careful with that. We do run back up and test these previous highs right along here where I've got that line drawn. You can see we turned down. It's tempting to go short right there, but I'd wait. You get a lower high right here, but no setup, and you're just going to go in sideways again, and then you get that little break up. It's similar to this right here. I mean, you've seen this a couple of times now. It looks like a repeat pattern. And so you may go short right there on this is a failed second entry long when it breaks lower right here. And you would think you would get another leg down like that at a minimum, and we may go all the way back down to the lows. We shoot down and then it reverses back up. And this is where it gets tricky because you're turning down at different places. You're turning up at odd places. You know, it's not a consistent place, but this is a second entry. You're a good bit away from the EMA. It's a very bearish bar, so you may take that one back. But notice that low, first entry, second entry, and this is a good example of why you don't enter way down here. Even though it's a lower high, you've already had a big move down, and you're going short without much room there, and you can see that's a quick trap. I don't like trading that trap back to the long side because it could have just ticked higher and gone lower. But that's a nice short trap right there, and you can tell that trapped people, but look how that one bar rockets out of there. All these shorts had to get out. So That is definitely a short trap right there, and that's what you want to see. That's why you hope most traps, if they fool enough people, this is the way they react. They rocket quickly in the other direction. So if you got short right there, you've already got 2 moves down and you got 2 legs in the middle. Even though you don't quite have a measured move, you want to have enough room to get out before. You don't want to go short right into that low right there, especially when there was another little double bottom over here. So there's some resistance there. And that's where you get more failures and trades that screw up, is right in the middle of a range. And this is right in the middle of this range. Here's the bait where most of your highs were, and this is where your lows were. So right in here is right in the middle of it. That's where you got to be really, really careful. And that's why I don't like any of this. Look how all those bars are stacking up and sideways. It is still trending higher, but I don't see any reason to go long through all that stuff. Eventually it breaks out and comes back up here, but that just leads to a good opportunity for a short. Notice how you make your high, then you make a lower high that ticks higher right there, and it actually broke higher and turned and went out the other side. Being that far away from the EMA, I would have gone short right below that bar. But even here, you could wait for this bar. Unfortunately, it drops on down before it comes back and fills you. So, I don't know if once it bounces, I'm going to wait on that because this trend might still be in play and it may go higher. So if you didn't get short 1 tick below this bar and scalp out before it got back here, then I don't think I would have stayed around and dropped a sell stop 1 tick below the big signal bar. So still would have worked because your stop would have been up here, and you can see it never would have been challenged at all, and it just continues to go lower. There's actually a failed second entry long right here. It would have been a great trap, and you can see that trapped people too. It broke higher and turned instantly, and those longs knew they had to get out. And look how it drops real fast right through there, just on that 1 bar. I mean, look how far that 1 bar is. 11 ticks. It's a big bar. That's just into the 2 o'clock hour, so you may take that trap right there to the short side. But anyway, interesting day. Again, all the movement was early, and we just were kind of stuck sideways in this range the rest of the day. And this is not an easy range to trade because, as I stated, ranges are easy when they're very predictable. And they're very predictable when every time prices touch down here on this line, they bounce. Or every time they touch on this line up here, they turn down. And you don't have that today. We're turning down at odd places. We're not getting anything consistent here. And that makes it a little harder. So, and the main thing to remember is if you're going to get a failure on a range, it's generally in the middle somewhere. And you got to be careful about failed second entries and stuff, especially in the middle, because you'll think you've spotted a failed second entry or some kind of trap, and come to find out you enter and then you realize quickly, oops, I got trapped. And it's easy to get trapped in those places, so just be real careful. Like I said, once it was obvious we were just kind of going back and forth in the middle of this range, it was better just to stay out of that until we got back up and we're turning down off the highs. So anyway, hope you had a good trading day. Maybe we'll get another rally again tomorrow like this. And I mean, again, if you can catch one of these trades early, I mean, you can make, you make a week's worth of trading in a few minutes and you're done for the day. And if nothing else, you may manage a runner and give it a little room and let it go because you got plenty of, you may have plenty of profit. So you might want to risk a little bit of that profit to try to get a runner that really takes off and makes you a lot of money. So, anyway, that's about all I got for today. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.